Hello everybody. In recent episodes we've been building up to the centenary of the 1925-26 New Zealand and South Seas exhibition by looking at art and photography at Dunedin's previous World Fairs in 1865 and 1889-90. However, for today's episode, rather than launch straight into the 1925-26 exhibition, I've decided to take a minor detour and instead poke my nose into the 1898 Otago Jubilee Industrial Exhibition. Week-long celebrations marking the 50th anniversary of the arrival of the first Otago Association settlers began on the 20th of March 1898. A procession described as the greatest spectacular display ever seen in the streets of this city or in the colony was held on the 23rd. Around 500 early European settlers took part in the procession, which was followed in the evening by an early settlers' conversazione, attended by 3,000 people. And within a few weeks, in the wake of the celebrations, the Otago Early Settlers Association, the organisation which founded our museum, was born. The exhibition had opened the previous day, on the 22nd of March. It would run for about 10 weeks, before closing on the 4th of June. And it was held here, in the newly established Agricultural Hall in Crawford Street. As with previous exhibitions, there were plenty of displays by local manufacturers and agents. Thomson & Co. were said to have perhaps the most artistic-looking exhibit in the building, comprising a handsome black and gold stand, surmounted by bottles of different coloured cordials, with mirrors used to good advantage, and a fountain playing into a pool full of goldfish, providing a splendid effect. Robert Lockheed's stand, meanwhile, was furnished with a varied assortment of goods, including sewing machines, prams, go-karts, etc., and the back wall was decorated with examples of crewel work made on wartime sewing machines, which Lockheed was agent for. Again, like prior exhibitions, there were education and mining courts, a fernery, and an art gallery, which was upstairs in the Victoria Hall. There were around 260 pictures on display in the gallery. The bulk of them were works by many of the country's best artists, but there was a small collection of pictures by well-known English artists as well. More than a third of the works were on loan from private collections. This one, for example, was lent by Dunedin businessman David Thierman, who would later become president of the Otago Art Society. Today, the painting is preserved in the collection of Ulverston Historic Home, the former Thierman family residence gifted to the city of Dunedin in 1966. This one, a view of Wairongoa Springs by L.W. Wilson, which is now in Toitu's collection, was on loan from another local businessman and collector, Alexander Thompson, the owner of Wairongoa Springs. Most of the works submitted by the artists themselves went into an art union lottery that was run in conjunction with the exhibition. It wasn't a typical art union lottery. Rather than individual pictures being drawn for, the draw was for prizes of monetary value, which the winner could then use to purchase works equal to the value of their winnings. This enabled Dr. Frederick Truby King, who won first prize, to acquire 6 works of his choosing, with a total value of £28 10 shillings, while the 45th prize winner took home 1 work valued at £2 10 shillings. The 33rd prize winner selected a work titled Dunedin Harbour by local artist Stephen O'Keefe, priced at £2 2 shillings, which was likely akin to this painting in Toitu's collection today. A painting of the Robert Henderson at anchor in Otago Harbour in 1861 by public servant Robert Park McGowan had a heftier price tag of £6 6 shillings, and appears not to have been taken home by any of the lottery winners. Timaru artist Charles Holland Thwillier Sterndale submitted 2 paintings featuring scenes in South Canterbury and South Otago. The latter was perhaps a companion of this watercolour in Toitu's collection that shows the same locality and was painted by the same artist around the same time. As well as the picture gallery, an early history court could also be found upstairs in the Agricultural Hall. The court occupied the Agricultural and Pastoral Association's boardroom. It comprised over 100 pictures and keepsakes, mostly relating to the early days of European settlement in Otago, the bulk of them drawn from the collections of Dr. Thomas Hocken and Alexander Thomson. There were numerous portraits of early identities such as Reverend Dr. Thomas Burns and his wife Clementina, Surveyor Charles Kettle, and this one of Reverend Dr. Donald McNaughton Stewart. There were also plenty of paintings and photographs of early Dunedin scenes, some of which we've encountered in previous episodes of Talking Pictures, such as this panorama by Sarah Street, and this view of Dunedin by John Turnbull Thomson. Works from Alexander Thomson's collection included one by Peter Power titled An Old View of Dunedin. He also lent works showing Lawrence, Moiraki and Invercargill, along with this watercolour of Whanganui by John Alexander Gilfillan, and several other recently executed sketches that were based on Gilfillan's earlier works. Dr. Robert Valpy Fulton was another who lent portraits and sketches for display in the early history court. The works included portraits of his Fulton, Valpy and Jeffreys relatives, and views of family properties at West Tyree and Forbury. Objects on display included Captain Cargill's Kilmarnock bonnet, which would become one of the first objects donated to the Early Settlers Association for its museum collection, shuttles used to weave the first cloth in Otago, and a model of the first threshing machine used here. One more story and we're done for today. On the day that the exhibition was set to open, shortly before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, David Logan, who was well known in Dunedin as a customs officer and lieutenant in the Dunedin Naval Brigade, headed up to the Early History Court to drop off a violin that he had offered for inclusion in the display. Upon entering the boardroom, the 46-year-old complained of feeling sick. He sat down in a chair, gave 3 gasps of breath, and died. The violin isn't mentioned in the Early History Court catalogue, so was likely withdrawn from the display. This painting I've used to illustrate the story is by David Edward Hutton. Although several of his works were on display in the picture gallery, and some were selected by the Art Union lottery winners, this one wasn't one of them. However, it did win a prize in one of the categories at a Dunedin School of Art Club exhibition 5 years earlier in 1893. That's it for now. See you next time, and thanks for watching.